Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the Sikh Think Tank program. This is a program dedicated to women in politics, Sikh women in politics. And that's politics covering all different types of politics, whether it's going into party political politics or internal politics in companies and organizations. So I'm joined by four very distinguished Sikh ladies, and let's do a collective Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. And I'm going to ask them to introduce each other and introduce themselves briefly. First of all, we have Gurdeep Kaur Hundal.
Hi, I'm a health journalist, health writer, broadcast journalist, a motivational speaker and life coach for young people.
And next we have Rajwinder Kaur Bains.
Hi, I'm a project analyst in investment banking for HSBC.
And next we have Manjeet Kaur Khara.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh, Das Manjeet Kaur Khera.
And then Dr. Jagir Kaur Sekhon OBE.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਮੈਂ ਗ੍ਰੀਨਿਚ ਤੋਂ ਆਈ ਹੈਗੀ ਹਾਂ ਸਿਟਿੰਗ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰ ਪਿਛਲੇ 20 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਤੇ ਗ੍ਰੀਨਿਚ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਥੋੜੀ ਦੇਰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਡਿਪਟੀ ਮੇਅਰ ਵੀ ਰਹਿ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹਾਂ
So we're going to discuss the kind of challenges Sikh women face in politics and in organizations. So I wondered first of all if we could talk about one of the common ones that people speak about is home life and work life balancing and the time available for getting into politics. Would anyone like to comment on that as a challenge?
Personally, I think that you don't need to get time out because you have politics, domestic, national, international, at home, within offices. So for me particularly, it's like if it's an issue that's close to my heart, I will take upon myself to say that if I can contribute towards that. And if it's something that I feel I can change, why not? Flag it up, see what you can do about it. And also you have to spend time with families at home, communities, and I think that as a whole becomes politics at a local, national and international level.
That's very interesting. Yeah? Anyone else?
I was going to say politics not only in Sikh women, I think it's a very difficult subject for women on the whole. When you talk about women, up to 1918 in UK, women didn't even have vote. Forget about politics, it's a different issue. And also our society, when I say our society, I'm talking about purely Sikh women point of view, is very demanding. And there is a lot we can do in politics, but can be restricted. So my view is we have to be highly qualified, well educated, and we have to be working hard, much more hard to prove ourselves what we are. Why? I don't know. The third most important thing is society demands a lot from us. There is expectation of your parents, your children, your social life, and it is very hard to say this is right and that is wrong. But from my own personal experience, I will say you need best people behind you. They always say there is a woman behind a man when he is successful, but I will say opposite. There is definitely a man behind a successful woman, whether it is politics, whether it is home. But certainly as a Sikh woman, I would like to say one thing, ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਦੇਖੀਏ ਪੋਲੀਟਿਕਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ 5 ਸਾਲ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਰਾ ਹੀ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਸਾਰੀ ਹੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅੰਡਰਸਟੈਂਡਿੰਗ ਸਿੱਖਣੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਮਦਰ ਐਂਡ ਫਾਦਰ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹਰ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਜਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਅਟੈਚਮੈਂਟ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿਲ ਬੀ ਏਬਲ ਟੂ ਫੇਸ ਬੈਟਰ and their relationship will be better with us. So within politics that comes first. And I know you have to ignore a lot of other things, and which I will talk to you once the questions are asked.
Okay. You know? Any other comments?
I definitely agree. I think it's hard as a young Punjabi Kudi to kind of like find time as well, because it depends on your job. Like you said, if you're really educated, if you're working 9 till 5, when you come home, if you're married, you've got to look after the kids, you've got the husband, you've got the cleaning to do. When would you have time for politics? But if your husband is helping you and supporting you, then he could take some of those chores away from you. But say, for example, if you're working as a young Punjabi Kudi, if you're working till 11:30 at night, where do you have the time to put politics in?
And is that something you would like to do? Have time for politics?
I would, but at the moment I've got a lot of different jobs and it's quite demanding. But when I was at university, I did a module in politics, and I was often told by the people that I was with that I should go into politics because being a journalist, I was the only ethnic minority on that course, so they could see it like that from that perspective. But yeah, maybe one day.
You'll find that even men don't have time in politics. When they get elected, they make appointments, but they never keep to it. So it's not only women who haven't got time, it's men as well who, if you're committed to it, then I think you need to honor what your job is requiring you to do.
Politics is really popularity, isn't it? That's what I refer to politics. Whoever you elect in politics, it's usually the people that the people feel familiar to or can relate to, regardless of what they're offering. It's the person that you trust the most.
Well, there's all sorts of factors that come into play. There's whether you like the guy or the person.
If you like the person, it's the likability of the person, isn't it? Usually the number one factor of who you choose.
I think that's one aspect.
Yeah.
But I think there are others as well. I think many people would say when they vote, they look at the policies to some extent and what they stand for, their moral principles and so on. But likability is definitely one big
But
factor.
sometimes you don't have a choice because of the candidate that's put to you. You just have to put across, maybe if the party politics, if you agree with the party manifesto, you will vote for the person irrespective of who that candidate is. And sometimes you look at the name, irrespective of what the name is, you will vote for the individual. So it depends on what location, on what area you live in.
So I'm interested in getting at personal experiences rather than generalities if possible. So Dr. Sekhonji, you've got an illustrious career in politics. You've been a mayor as well for some time. Could you tell us some of the challenges you faced in getting into politics?
Getting into politics is rather difficult. You have to be dedicated, you have to be committed, you have to have a passion for the job. And in my view, if you haven't got these three things, please do not go in politics, because that's very important. Now, I take Penny's view on the board straight away. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਕੋਲੇ ਵੀ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ, which I totally agree. But when you take something on, you have to prioritize things. You have to give up something. I will never give up my family life, because that's most precious for me than anything else. But you get up in the morning, maybe whatever time, 7 o'clock in the morning, once you have done your daily bits, whatever you want to say, then you need to prioritize what is important for me. Where is my to-do list? And am I going to see my constituents today? What are their problems? Have you got surgery there? Whatever your dedication is. I do not believe that you come in politics just for your own fame. That is absolutely not true. You come there to represent your own people. And I was reading somewhere in a book when I was going through the research for this subject, it said very clearly that politics is hard to get in. It is very hard to get in, but you've got to work for it. If you work hard for it, there's nothing to stop you. It's not easy. I said in my sort of first remark, wherever you go, we are Sikhs. Sikh women have a challenge. As a woman, we have a challenge. You go to the history. Look at Mary Seacole, black woman. And even today, when I said the vote was 1918, even today there's only 1/3 women in politics, total politics in the world we are talking about. But the first president was Bandar Naiki in Sri Lanka, a woman. Then we had Indira Gandhi. I'm not a great admirer of these women, but I'm saying if you want to achieve something, you will. And in Indian politics, my country's politics is the most difficult politics, and she came from a very good background. Then we had Margaret Thatcher. So there are some very good examples.
So what would you say is the key? So we're mentioning that there are challenges getting into politics. Time is one of the issues that's been mentioned. You can come back late if you have a career, to find the time. So you've mentioned, for example, you've got to be committed, you've got to be passionate.
Absolutely.
So does that mean, if I'm really passionate, doesn't matter what time I get home,
Yep.
I will find a way to get into this thing called politics that I enjoy. Is that what we're talking about?
I'm talking about if you are in a party politics, you have to be very sort of secure in yourself first. That's very important, because when you're going to go out, you're going to compete with the people. Outside people, particularly indigenous population, are going to compete with you. So you've got to be better than them.
And
That's
do
the
you-
one
have you
biggest
found
challenge.
the same thing?
In journalism, it's exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
I've had to ignore. I've had a lot of people putting me down, telling me that, like they say that I'm a coconut because of what I'm doing, and
So
a lot of men
putting you
wrestle-
down from within our own community.
Yeah,
Right.
within our own community as well. Just because you're a strong-headed woman, they see it as a threat, but usually that's because of the man's insecure, which that's kind of normal.
I think that if you standing hak and sach, even in politics, now if you stand by the issue, and if you, like Panji here is saying about family, for me family is community as well.
Yeah.
So for me politics is not just your own in the unit of family like your sons and your daughters, but the community is a family as well. So if you are committed to your community issues, for Sikh issues example, and for example hak and such, if you stand by what are facts and what is right, and then not discriminate against who you are, or against communities like certain ethnic people, you don't want to, another issue ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚੁੱਕਨੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ because ਉਹ ਫਲਾਣੇ ਗਰੁੱਪ ਨੂੰ ਬਿਲੋਂਗ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਜੇ ਹੱਕ ਐਂਡ ਸੱਚ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੋਈ ਕਰਦਾ ਆ, irrespective of ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਤੋਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ represent ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਫਰਜ਼ ਬਣਦਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਚੁੱਕੋ. If you are elected and if you are paid, it's your responsibility to make sure that you represent each and every individual in your constituency. Mere vaste politics is that, otherwise it's all dirty politics.
So that's a very interesting point, hak and such. And you were mentioning about that internally, in your own community and outside as well, you get different challenges.
It's because it's a competitive industry, like politics, it's very competitive. If you want to get to the top, you have to work very hard. But whilst you're getting there, there's going to be a lot of challenges that you face, not just because of your community, but as a woman. In the UK, yes, we have equal rights, but again, there's a lot of prejudice. If you're very stern, they usually say something wrong with you. If you look back at Margaret Thatcher, how do people perceive her? Some think she's crazy, some think she's amazing, some think she's just like off the rails. But she was very stern in what she did. That's how I kind of see it, and that's how it is within politics, I believe, that if you want to make it, you have to be very stern. But along the way, some people in your community will think that's amazing, some will think it's not amazing.
So is it a challenge, I'm hearing it's a challenge that you almost have to put on a persona
Yeah.
of being stern and tough
Yeah.
in order to compete in a man's world. Is
I
that, is
mean, for example, in banking is very much a man's world, and it was very tough being an uneducated girl. All I got was my GCSEs, and my first job was in Deutsche Bank, and the first manager I had, there was only 2 girls within my team. The first girl was an educated woman, and straight from the off, he tried to get me fired. And so when I was working hard, trying to learn everything from the basic, he was fudging my figures, and I was going through all these disciplinary procedures, and I had to go out my way and work hard and try to uncover the truth. And it took me half a year to the point to final disciplinary, and he actually told me, off the record, he says, I will make sure you are fired. And he says, and you can't do anything about that.
and do you believe that was because
But
you were a
that's-
woman?
I believe he told me, he said he wanted his male best friend to have my job, so he needed space to get rid of me, and unfortunately he didn't succeed. So within banking it is very much a man's world, and so as an uneducated woman and a 30-year-old Sikh woman, unmarried, living on my own in Canary Wharf, some people perceive it as a bad thing and that I should be settled down and I should be married, but I have got quite a successful career in HSBC and working within a project, and I'm competing with other people.
So that I want to bring this back to the Sach and Haq issue. So if we think about essentially the truth and the facts, right? And they often say, don't they, the facts are your friends. But when you've got quite dirty, nasty politics going on, as you just described,
Yeah.
we might say facts manifest themselves in the hard work that you output. Yeah? You know, here's what I've achieved. That's a fact. You can't argue with that. But is that enough on its own? Because
No, because they need to be able to hear your facts, because sometimes you don't have the opportunity to do that. If you've got the evidence and the facts, you want to put them forward to somebody who say this is what actually is going on, but nobody is prepared to listen to it. So for me as a woman, I find that difficult to say who is going to listen to what you got to say. And I wish there was somebody out there who would listen to me. Please, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
so, okay, but it's a serious point, right? The getting people to hear you is a challenge. So you may have the facts. I don't want to get sort of too theoretical, right? But you can have the facts. But I've also heard that you
You
need
don't
to
have
put
the
on this
platform.
persona
Yeah.
of toughness and sternness to be taken seriously. Is that
But
right?
then if you've got the facts and you've got even one person standing by you, I think that you can be successful, provided that person has got the voice for you. And now we've got our media, surely there must be somebody out there who can listen to us to say that we've got evidence, we've got facts, but nobody wants to listen to us. So maybe there are, like we say, panthik masle ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ organizations ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਹਨਾ ਕਿ ਕੋਈ ਤੇ ਭਲਾ ਕਰੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਹਨਾ, because there are lots of things in political, office politics, national politics,
Yeah.
party politics. And ਸਾਡੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਪੱਗਾਂ ਦਸਤਾਰ ਵਾਲੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ politics ਅੰਦਰ ਜਾਣਾ, but there's positive discrimination against them. And it's not only women, it's men as well who are finding it difficult to break into the system. So there are barriers not only for Sikh women but for Sikh men, dastar ke sathari. They want clean shaven ke sade na jere ral jange rather than jere apni awaaz uthange. So je koi hega ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਰਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਆ, ਉਹ ਕੁੱਟ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਲਣਗੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਕੁਅਲ opportunities ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, but they don't actually mean it. We're just representing proportional representation, sort of to speak, to say कि जो तुसी 30% आ साढ़े 3 बंदे हो ना ते ताकि ऐसे equal opportunities साढ़े नाल काट दे आ. But जो देखा जावे, it doesn't reflect us accurately for what we are.
Dr. Sekhwani, ਇਸ ਖਿਆਲ ਬਾਰੇ, what do you think is the answer?
The answer will be,
Satari, Dastar wale apne Sikh naujawan, if they want to get into politics, they feel there is that barrier. ਤੁਸੀਂ passion ਦਾ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਕੀਤਾ, commitment. What do you feel is the answer for those guys who want to get into politics?
ਇੱਕ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਐਂਡ ਡਿਊਟੀ ਦਾ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ. If we know what our rights are, no one is going to bring politics to you. You will have to go to politics. And that's very important. If you are thirsty, the well doesn't come to you, you go to the tap. So the issue for me is, look, right in front of us, we have got examples. Sardar Tanmanjit Singh Tesi has just been selected for
And
Member
after
of
how many
Parliament.
years is that? That's another question.
No.
We have
So
been here since the Second World War.
ਨਹੀਂ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ, ਮੇਰਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਇਹ ਰਾਈਟ ਹੈ, ਵੀ ਕੈਨ ਫਾਈਟ ਐਂਡ ਲਾਇਲਟੀ ਗੋਜ਼ ਲੌਂਗ ਵੇ. ਆਈ ਐਮ ਨਾਟ ਸੇਇੰਗ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੀ ਉਹ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ ਚਾਫਲੂਸੀ. What I am saying, you got to be loyal to whatever party you belong to. I belong to Labour Party, I will be loyal. And it's very important for me to know my rights. I've been there 20 years. I'm not saying there's no discrimination, there is. But you got to fight for it. And how can you fight? You can fight with the people. That's very important. The second, I think, the other bigger challenge which I feel as a woman is, sometimes if I'm a working woman, Sikh woman or non-Sikh woman, then there isn't enough money coming in if your evening shift is gone for politics. And that can be a big challenge for a family life, which draws you back. Then you say, oh, give up, I will go back to my job. And it is very important. Now, I'm not saying there's no discrimination, I'm saying there is, because within politics, I haven't suffered myself, but there is. We have to say. Because I suppose now the people are beginning to know that our children are ਦਸਤਾਰਾਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ, ਦਾੜੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਛਕਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ, ਕਿਰਪਾਨਾਂ ਪਾਈਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਨੇ. You can go to House of Parliament with kirpan. There is no problem. So we are progressing. We have to make people aware. We can only do it through such discussions or meeting more people. And our young people actually do not get involved much into politics. I have a problem with that. Because when you go to a meeting, like 3 weeks ago, there was a Sikh council meeting in Gurdwara. I raised this issue over there, that we should have young people more involved. People make decisions for you in politics, whether you like it or not. local level, national level, international level. Unless we are part of it, this decision will be made for you, not you make the decision or be part of the decision. So my view will be, yes, we have to work hard, but then don't give up. Please continue to fight. And the other thing is the law. Sometimes law discriminates itself. Even indigenous population, there aren't many women. And they are not on top position, only just with the reshuffle they come on, 4 or 5 women, but there weren't many on big positions, apart from one Theresa May. So we have to see how it is going. If they can't win, I'm not saying Sikh, we are warriors actually. I'm very proud to be a Sikh and I would want to die as a Sikh. The most important issue is we must fight for our right, we must be loyal to the party, we must be loyal to our society. मैं पहली दी जड़ी हैगी ना statement, I'm thinking as Penji is speaking, because it's a very important issue. ਸਾਡੇ prominent Sikh members, एक नहीं हैगा, one we had, and he's been just there has been some issues, and we need more people to come into politics. Unless we come, we will not progress. We have to work hard, all of us.
I wonder if there's something in this, that if you look at Gurdwara politics,
Hanji.
that's its own kind of politics, right? And I want to move the discussion also on to Punjabi culture versus Sikh culture, and in that context. So if you look at Gurdwara politics, for example, is there enough encouragement for Sikh women to come to the front in Gurdwara politics, and maybe they can use that as a nursery, a testing ground to learn politics? Take it from me, if you want to learn politics, get into the Gurdwara politics. And then from that, you can learn how to deal with different types of political problems and take that to a bigger stage. Any thoughts on that?
Well, when I was growing up in Leeds, that's where I'm originally from, I used to go to a lot of recruiting meetings, and every time a woman spoke up, they would say she's Fargal, there's something wrong with her, the Margovich Kupnoxia, because they're very passionate. When we talk, when we're angry, we're very passionate, but it's perceived in the wrong way. And I feel like there's a lot of ego in the Gurdwara about politics in general. It's a man's world. I don't think women are given a chance. When I was growing up and we're listening to it, I used to sit there and think, why are women treated this way? Because in Sikya, we're supposed to be equal. But why are we doing that within our own community? I definitely think there's a cultural issue going back from a long time ago that women are seen as men. And that, I'll be honest, that's why I stopped going parts of those committees, because I feel like I couldn't have a voice there. I was only like 13 at the time, but a 13-year-old trying to speak her mind in front of people who are a lot older, that have a lot of different views. Their views are a lot older, but theirs is based on what they know from India, but also here. But where me and Raj, I'd say, we're born here, so the perception we have is slightly different. But I don't think we get taken seriously. Maybe now in the next few years, if like Benji said, that if we have young people come in into politics, it will make a change. I agree. I a long time ago did want to go into politics, but because of seeing myself with Gurdwara, that changed my perception. I thought, is this what I'm going to have to deal with on top of family life, on top of like having a husband in the future, that kind of drama, working as well? How would I balance it?
And I very much agree with that. I just feel so comfortable with that, and I presume people want to get into politics because they want to make a change for the communities. I mean, so what I do is, it's not necessarily politics, but I give my time to help underprivileged children in terms of like learning in schools. So I actually go to schools, helping them read, helping them write, helping them learn IT. So it's not necessarily politics, but it comes from the same reason. You want to make a change for the better in your community. So that's what I do in my own way.
But I think there's a lot of prejudice in our community. That's what holds us back.
Yeah, that's why.
So let's talk about that. If you don't mind, I want to just do a bit of an age profile. ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ 'ਚ ਬਹੁਤ prejudice ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ, ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ। ਅਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹੀ prejudice ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ। What's the solution? Has anybody found any points that would be helpful?
For me, my Gurdwara is quite open-minded. And ਮੇਰੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਪੋਜ਼ਿਟਿਵ ਆਪਣੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਦੀ, ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਮੈਂ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ, ਬਟ ਜੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੁਝ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕੋਈ ਸੁਧਾਰ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂ ਉਸ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮ ਤੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਚੜ ਕੇ ਫਿਰ ਕੁਝ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਜਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੁਝ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ। ਮੈਂ ਚਿੱਠੀ ਪਾ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਫਲਾਨਾ ਮਸਲਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੱਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ। ਸੋਲਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਵੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੇਣੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਕੀ ਮਸਲਾ ਆ, ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਹੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ। ਔਰ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਉਹਦਾ ਫਰਕ ਪਏਗਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਸੰਗਤ ਤੇ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਹੋਲ ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਸੰਗਤ ਦਾ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਆ ਸੰਗਤ ਰਨ ਕਰਦੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਆ ਦੈਟ ਟੂ ਲੀਡ ਐਂਡ ਟੂ ਮੈਨੇਜ ਇਟ ਬਟ ਸੰਗਤ ਦਾ ਇੱਕੀਵਾਂ ਦਰਜਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੁਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਆ ਸੰਗਤ ਦਾ ਫਰਜ਼ ਬਣਦਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦੀ ਸੁਧਾਰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਲਿਆਉਣੀ ਆ and it's up to the gurdwara then to consider it and to digest it and then to say ਕਿ ਉਹਦਾ ਹੱਲ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਹੋ ਸਕੇਗਾ ਜਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੋਚ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਵੀ ਸੋਚ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਦੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਮੇਟੀਆਂ 'ਚ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੋਚ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਉਧਾਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਫਿਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਉਹ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਕਹੇ ਨੇ they have considered them seriously and I have seen some changes along the lines and I feel ਕਿ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਦੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਕਿ ਰੱਬ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਬਖਸ਼ੇ ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਹੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਸੇਧ ਲੈਣੀ ਆ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਦੇ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਜੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸੰਗਤ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਜੋ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਐਸਪੈਸ਼ਲੀ ਸਾਊਥ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਇਸ ਨੋਨ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਲੰਡਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹੀ ਸੀਗਾ ਅੰਟਿਲ ਦ ਗ੍ਰੇਵਸ ਐਂਡ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਨਾਓ ਇਨ ਸਾਈਜ਼ ਇਟ ਮਾਈਟ ਬੀ ਬਿਗ but the South Hall politics Gurdwara diya jo South Hall ne malla mania it's the best Gurdwara so far as an example that it has set nationally and internationally and ਮੈਂ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੀ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਔਰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਵਿਚਾਰਦੇ ਨੇ
So if we think about there was an interesting phrase earlier on you used the phrase Punjabi Kudi yeah now this Punjabi culture and this Sikh religion and the two things are often quite different, not always. Now what are the challenges in terms of it's been said sometimes that ladies, women, girls feel that they're shoved aside, they're discounted for cultural reasons, but the Sikh religion says that there is equality more perhaps than any other religion. How do we deal with that challenge?
You asked me this question earlier on ਉਹਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਦੋ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਹੂੰਗੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਪੋਲਿਟਿਕਸ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਜੀ ਇਟ ਹੈਜ਼ ਨਾਟ ਚੇਂਜਡ ਐਂਡ ਇਟ ਵਿਲ ਨਾਟ ਚੇਂਜ ਮੈਂ ਦੋ ਹੱਥ ਜੋੜ ਕੇ ਮਾਫੀ ਮੰਗਦੇ ਜੋ ਮੇਰੇ ਭੈਣ ਭਰਾ ਵੀਰ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਹੈ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੀ ਸ਼ਰਧਾਲੂ ਹਾਂ ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਆਈ ਐਮ ਸਿੱਖ ਆਈ ਸੈਡ ਅਰਲੀਅਰ ਔਨ ਇਫ ਵੀ ਨੋ ਦੀ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਮਾਤਾ ਖੀਵੀ ਜੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਅੰਗਦ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਵੇਲੇ ਲੰਗਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਸੀਗੇ ਟੁਡੇ ਯੂ ਮਾਈਟ ਹੈਵ 1 or 2 Sikh women on the committee. So we have not moved. We call our Sikh religion is equality, but it isn't. And there are many challenges. No one wants to challenge anybody. That's another issue. If we talk about Sri Amritsar Sahib, उत्थे ladies कीर्तन नहीं कर सकती हैं जिथे अपने तड़के महाराज जी का प्रकाश करने वास्ते पालकी साहब आते ने लेडीज हाथ नहीं ला सकती एंड दिस इज आवर Sikh politics that shrine our Sikh shrine is world famous now that is leaving Gurdwara side within the other politics if you want to go to mainstream politics ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰੈਸ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ Gurdwara is part of politics and we must stand by not for self gain not for self agenda ne vi kiya we should always be part of our society part of Gurdwara jitthon sanu jeevan di seth mildi hai that I agree with but to change only young people young boys are coming forward now they will change and young girls are coming forward now they will be part of change but it's a major change I have to say my fear is it is not going to change overnight. I haven't seen any change. I have been and lived in this country 45 years. It is exactly the same. And the other thing is we have got too many discussions about Gurdwara politics within Gurdwara that must move out. That's my view.
That's called ekta है ना कि जाने कमेटियां एकता करन there should be politics then and एक पंथ एक ग्रंथ एक संगत ਦਾ ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੁਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਆ ਨਾਲੇ also I would say ਕਈ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਐਸੀਆਂ ਆ ਕਿ we as women although we say we want to play a role in it है ना ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਮਾਤਾ ਗੁਜਰੀ ਜੀ ਸੀਗੇ ਹੈ ਨਾ she played a very important role but she wasn't in the forefront So we can still play a role in the background. ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਫਲਾਣੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਕਿ ਬੀਬੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੋੜੇ ਲਿਆਵੋ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਮੋੜੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੇਵਾ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਐਂਡ ਆਈ ਬਿਲੀਵ ਕਿ ਹਰਿਮੰਦਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਜੋ ਪ੍ਰਾਤਨ ਮਰਿਆਦਾ ਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਤਾਕਤ ਬਦਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੀ ਐਂਡ ਆਈ ਐਗਰੀ ਵਿਦ ਦੈਟ ਬਟ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੂਮਨ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਕਰੋ ਕੋਈ ਘਾਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਤੇ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਯੂ ਗੋਟ ਟੂ ਚੇਂਜ ਟੂ ਸੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਖੜਿਆ ਜੇ ਉਹ ਚੰਗੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਕਰੀ ਜਾਣ and that's what I believe in to say that is what the maryada of the Harmandir Sahib is ਕਿ ਉਹਦੀ ਮਰਿਆਦਾ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਇਮ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਦਾ ਫਰਜ਼ ਬਣਦਾ ਆ
I wonder how much inspiration you take from that kind of experience that you heard.
I take a lot of inspiration. Obviously, I mean, I wasn't aware of all these things. I'm quite a novice to this, I'm going to be honest. But listening to you two does give you some inspiration as a young Sikh girl, thinking, actually, I can do this, I can do that. It gives you motivation. So yeah.
And life. It gives you really Gurdwara, gives you said, Jeevan said mildi hai ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ
Well, yeah, it's
ਸਾਡੇ
not
ਜਿਹੜੇ
even just the
principles of
politics.
Sikhism ਹਨ they are wonderful principles. Equality is in the books. ਸੋ ਕਿ ਬੰਦਾ ਆਖੀ ਜਿਸ ਜਮੇ ਰਾਜਾਨ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ 'ਚ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵੱਡੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਬਟ ਵੀ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਮਾਈ ਵਿਊ ਵਿਲ ਬੀ we can't survive without Gurdwaras. It is very important. This is our life. And we need to live with that. I totally admire Gurdwaras. You know.
So I think what I'm hearing is Gurdwaras, Gurdwara committees, they need to do as much as possible to encourage, make it a welcoming atmosphere for women, for men, for youngsters, for everybody.
Yeah.
I guess that's a very easy thing to say though, isn't it? And it comes back to this culture point. Even in organizations, in companies, internal politics in organizations, in families, in gurdwaras, anywhere, there's that small p politics, right? Internal politics. And it's often said, you can put politics in the ring with technology or process, every time culture will win. And it's the happening, culture versus religion, seems to be most of the time, culture is winning. And I'm really, it's a difficult question, but what's the solution to this? It's very easy to say, there are barriers there. One of the solutions I'm hearing is there's a lot of need for role models. That you're getting some inspiration from this.
I do get inspiration from these two ladies because obviously they've had life experience. They've seen things that I haven't seen and potentially are yet to see. So from what I'm hearing, it's not just to put into politics, it's to put into every aspect of your life.
I agree as well. I agree with both of you what you're saying. The only thing I think is that we need to kind of implement this in the Gurdwara. So like even like in like Punjabi classes when I was growing up, maybe saying to young girls, is anyone interested in politics, and maybe doing a lesson with them that way and getting them involved. I don't think it's just about women itself. I think it's an age thing as well. I feel like it's a cultural thing. Like when we're growing up as a young Punjabi person, we're told "Sanu kuch nahi pata, tu chhod diya, then kuch nahi pata." But it's not. It shouldn't be that. Sometimes a young person can have more wisdom than an elderly person. It's how they perceive it differently. And within politics, that's what happens. If I can imagine, if I grew up like at 13 years old, stood up and said something, they would have said "Tu chhod diya, na kuch nahi pata." I think that's where we need to break down a barrier in particular, because that young person might say something that none of us have thought about, and that one person could change everything. Doesn't mean that they're Siane, but they might have a viewpoint that none of us, would have thought of. But I also think that maybe we need to implement this in schools, because when I was growing up, we didn't study politics. Like, actually, did we ever study politics?
No, we didn't. It's something you had to choose after GCSEs.
Exactly, and I only actually got into politics when I did my first degree in journalism, and there was a module in politics. That's when I learned about the difference between Labour, Conservative, Liberal Democrats, and all the other parties. That's when I actually got really interested in it. I actually used to get first every year. But then after that, it's like, what do you do with it? I don't know anybody. I think there's that kind of thing. We need to bring a community together where there's not just young women, but young boys together, saying, look, you can work together, and have you guys on board to show us which way to go and how we can progress that.
Have you had any experience in that? Have you tried to join political parties and make headway?
I haven't. I've known some people when I was growing up in Leeds trying to do it, but again, it was that kind of empowerment. It's trying to be a modern Punjabi Kuri / being part of the Gurdwara / trying to fit into this culture that we live in, Western, Eastern lifestyle. And it's so messy, if I'm being honest. Like, I feel like our generation, we might have it easier in other sense that you guys work very hard, but at the same time we've got a lot of hardships in the sense that we have to fit into the East and Western kind of society. We have to realise our own Sikh culture, but also the Western side. But it's so hard trying to understand who you are as well growing up. You know, we've got the media, and I'm part of the media as well, and we've got all these, you know, you've got like music, you've got other things on the TV that are in like kind of changing our perception. So how can young girls kind of go into politics if they're so like being insecure about how they look? We need to change that. We need to say that, you know, bring in like maybe into, you know, into the Gurdwara, like, you know, have a conversation about image and talk about actually image is not that important at this age. It's about using your brain and trying to achieve something. I think that's when we can get more girls come in, because at the moment I don't think we're making a difference. I don't think a lot of the young girls know what's going on in politics and what to do.
The other thing, I think you asked what can be done. We are sitting in a school, which is a Punjabi school. We are very fortunate in Southall. The issue we have is when the young people go to Gurdwaras, men or women, Sikh people go to Gurdwara, the prayers or explanation of Guru Granth Sahib is always in Punjabi. I'm not saying it shouldn't be in Punjabi. I think to attract young people, we need to do better. We need to bring them in to say, what is your view? I take your example very seriously. The issue is, we welcome them and they should put their views in. We are not changing here what are the guidelines for Sikhism. What we want to do is bring young people in. So if they can understand English better, then the lecture or the advice, all the cultural issues should be discussed in English as well as in Punjabi. And that's one, I think, there might be not right way, but it can be one of the ways to go forward. The second thing, I always appeal to young people. Please do go to Gurdwara. Let your ideas known to the people, particularly those who are in positions. And the third point I would say, once the committee, it doesn't matter who the president is there, his entire responsibility, his accountability to the society is equal. Whether he belongs to, same as in the other politics, national politics. If Labour Party is in power, their responsibility is whole UK. Now Conservatives in power, their responsibility is all UK, all problems of UK. So we as Sikhs, it doesn't matter who is the president, but their responsibility is towards all young, old and the Sikh society. And that's my view to way forward.
Can I ask, so bringing it sort of somewhere near towards the conclusion of the programme, the parties, the political parties, how do we feel about how well they are doing attracting women into politics? Do we like the idea of quotas? Do we like the idea of special treatment? Is it the case that because there is a cultural barrier there which is stopping women coming into politics, that to address that balance, we've got to do something?
Quotas, I agree and disagree with, because it's the only solution that I can think of. I mean, the bad side is you don't want to be hired or selected just because you're a female, but to a certain extent, that's the only way you are going to get your quota of women in there. So it's a flip side, a good and a bad side. And just to pick up one thing that you said, I mean, I know it's not the best thing to, like when I go to the Gurdwara, yes, I do have an understanding of Punjabi, but it's not the best understanding. Sometimes I feel intimidated, like when I hear the prayers, and when I hear like the talks all in Punjabi, and everybody else around me is understanding it, but I can't fully grasp or understand it. Now, if it was in both English and Punjabi, you would have my full attention, and you would attract, for example, a member like me to go.
Many Gurdwaras now have a screen where they show the translation as well. Is that something that's helpful?
That would be very helpful, yes.
Because a lot of Gurdwaras have that, don't they?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of those, it's a two-way thing. The Gurdwaras need to do a lot to provide it in English, but I
But
think
we
people
also
also
have
need
a
to make the effort
duty.
to go there.
No,
as well.
that's true. I mean, because this was a while ago, that, I mean, if it's changed, I wasn't aware that they do that now.
Yeah, I think a fair few do, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a lot of prejudice within our community itself, and I think a lot young girls personally, when I used to go to the Gurdwara, I loved going to Gurdwara just, you know, to listen to Barney, you know, be part of the community. But then when you go there, you're kind of judged. If you look in a particular manner, like I admit I'm not like, I believe I'm Sikh, but I'm not the perfect Sikh, and I'm trying to become better. Yes, my hair is cut. I see that, but at the same time, you get judged on that. I feel like that's how I feel, and I think that once we can kind of break that, that'll make it easier. But I felt like I wasn't part of the Gurdwara because I was like this. And I think there's a lot of issues that if we kind of break that and say like, yes, okay, you're not there yet, but we can help you get there, I think you'll get more people coming in. At the moment, I feel a lot of young people feel threatened, and that's what I feel, that's why. Like, I stopped going for a bit because I felt threatened. Almost I used to go and somebody would say to me, why do you look this way, why do you look that way? And I found like, why? We should be embracing one another because we're all Sikh. But I feel that because obviously there's two different contrasts, there's Amritdhari and there's people who haven't followed that path, but we shouldn't be judging one another, and I feel like there's a lot of judging of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues around the Gurdwara environment and so on. But in terms of national politics and parties, is there anything in particular that needs to be done, that you would not be in favour of? What is it that needs to be done by the Labour Party, the Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, to attract people from the Sikh community, Sikh women, into politics?
Both the parties are two sides of a coin. Their manifestos are so similar, you can't distinguish between them nowadays. And you also find that they would rather include people who are going to be agreeing with them. And irrespective of who you are, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਹਾਂ ਮਿਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਬਰਦਸਤੀ ਰਲਾ ਲੈਣਗੇ and make it out to say as you are part of us. And you can't stand up and say, okay, these are what our philosophies are, this is what your manifesto is saying, this is what we want out of it. So you can't speak out and you can't challenge them. You've got to be part of them to be fitted in. That's when they fit you in. To say, if you agree with the status quo and you're just a number, you don't represent them, you don't represent yourself, you don't have a voice. If do as you are told, rather than you coming and telling us what your requirements are, which I think is not representative of what the election or the party is all about. It should be like, what are the needs of every individual community, and they should be representing those. Now that we know that there are large numbers of ethnic minority in this country, they need to look at their manifestos and their policies such that they represent us all. And I think their party politics need to change if they think they are going to be counting us in. Otherwise, we might as well have our own Sikhani party, jida kande hai na, कि अपनी आवाज़ आप उठाओ. Now we are in large numbers in this country, in Europe, internationally as well. So maybe that's something the Sikh community needs to consider, कि थारी अपनी पार्टी होवे जिथे तुसी अपने बंदियां नु खड़े करो, ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ MEPs ਵੀ and councillors ਵੀ, and see where that takes us. And a prime example is Rajovana, ਉਹਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਭੈਣ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਜ nominate ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਸਾਡੀ ਕੋਈ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ, ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਡੀਪੈਂਡੈਂਟਲੀ ਖੜੇ ਹੋਵੋ, ਆਪਣੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਉਠਾਵੋ. No matter where you are a political figure for yourself and your community. That's what I would say. And ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ we need to consider those things seriously now.
You asked a question about quotas and reservations. I have two views on that. We need to push our Sikh women forward somehow. The issue I have here is, if there has been in past law of the government to do positive discrimination, in that situation, very often what happens, the people make wrong decisions. People are pushed through quotas, those are not fit for caliber. I'm afraid to say that I am not one of them who will say, give the job because she's Indian, she's black, or she's Hispanic, or whatever. What I will say, when it comes to the jobs, you give a job to the person according to the qualification, according to person's caliber, according to how much they have put in the society. And that's very important for progress. Yes, the women need to be encouraged. Yes, there should be some sort of, you can say quota, or very sort of encouraging view for Sikh women to go into national politics. It's very important.
So let me bring this sort of conversation towards a close. We've heard a number of different things. There is Gurdwara politics, There's national politics, there's family politics, organisation politics. Things need to be done to encourage women to come into the various political forums. One of the key learning points seems to be role models is a very powerful one. We've heard today that the younger generation is quite inspired by those who are older than them. Guts, determination, commitment, passion is required. Nothing is easy. Let me just close by asking each of you to give just one or two closing comments before we close the program.
I like to say, like, from a motivational perspective, and like, it's not been easy for me being a journalist and a health journalist. I've had to fight a lot of battles. But as long as you believe in yourself, you can do anything. And I believe in politics, we can make a difference, but you have to pull together. If you don't pull together, nothing's going to change. Like with any person, like once they said Barack Obama would never be president, well, what's stopping any Afghani woman from becoming the first Punjabi Prime Minister?
Thank you very much. Anything from you?
Okay, well, for me, being an uneducated Sikh girl from the West Midlands, I guess it was a struggle for me to end up in such a high career, still being unmarried and moving away from home, coming away from the school. You should be married by now, but just to say that there is more to life than just living the normal route and being educated, getting the normal job and having the typical married life. There is more to that. You can live away from home and do different aspects.
And cope with the politics.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would say that it's time that the Sikhs came together and started to make the changes in the politics of this country. I think we need to get together, Ekta, share our experiences, because surely we are all experiencing different things and most of us feel that we are not counted in. And it's about time we said to them, stand up for your rights and say we need to be counted, we need to speak for ourselves, and we are distinguished and we are different from others, but we stand for the same needs and the same policies that everybody has. All mankind is equal, Manas ki jaat sab ek hai pehchan lavo, and all the needs of every individual human beings are the same. Waheguru ji ka khalsa, Waheguru ji ki fateh.
फर्स्ट थिंग मैं दो हाथ जोड़ के माफ़ी मंगांगी जी कोई लफ्ज़ किसी ਨੂੰ इधर उधर कहा गया. Second one is that I'm grateful for the Sikh channel to interview us. Third one is my community has always been my backbone and supporting me. Please keep supporting. Waheguru ji ka khalsa, Waheguru ji ki fateh.
And on that note, let me also say, if anything wrong has been said, koi galti ho gaye, bachcha samjh ke maaf kar dena, and let's all together say, Waheguru ji ka khalsa, Waheguru ji ki fateh.